can just, be absorbed in Krishna and for the entire evening. So this is the last weekend before Janmastami. So we are requesting everyone, please, we are, circulating our message on WhatsApp, so on emails. Please forward it to your friends. Request everyone to come. Please forward the message. If you have not received it, I can personally text it to you, and you can personally invite your friends that everyone can come and receive the blessings of Shri Radha Golokananda. Right. So last week is a time when we really want everyone to help us advertise the festival. And also, there are many opportunities for service, and there's also many sponsorship opportunities. You can give a gift to Krishna. You can sponsor different aspects of the festival. But I'll make all those announcements after the class. So our program now, we'll have class by His Holiness bkgoswami Maharaj. And after class, we also have a short 10 minutes youth presentation. Today, Advait Chandra will be doing a short talk, 10 minutes. And then we'll have a dinner prasadam at 6 p.m. for everyone. And after dinner also, there's some seva opportunities. So let's move on to the class. Anyone else who's here for the first time? We didn't welcome earlier. So if everyone can kindly move forward for the class. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
It's good to see everybody. Welcome to Nugaloka. And as Aditya Ryan Prabhu mentioned, this Friday is the celebration of Janmastami. So you're all invited to come, beginning at 4 o'clock in the morning till after midnight, and there'll be a big feast after midnight. So I thought today I would sort of give a brief introduction concerning Krishna's reason for coming down into this material world, and a little bit of what we call ontology, that is, who is Krishna? And it's a very light slideshow, don't worry. No heavy philosophy for those of you who are not into philosophy, but there's some philosophy. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunya Vihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunya Vihari. Gopijana Palaba Iribado Radhe. Gopijana Malaba Iribado Radhe. Yasodanandana Braja Jananandana. Yasodanandana Braja Jananandana. Yamuna Tehira Vanachade. Yamuna Tehira Vanachade. Jayrad Madhava Kunya Vihari. Jayrad Madhava Kunya Vihari. Gopi Dana Balaba Girivaru Dhamure. Gopi Nanabalabha Girivaru Dhamure. Yasodanana Praja Janarana. Yasodanana Praja Janarana. Jamuna Tera Panachade. Yamuna Tera Panachade. Jayo Radhu Madhava Kunya Bihari. Jayo Radhu Madhava Kunya Bihari. Madhava Jabihare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravitakacharya. Also Tata Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace Sabaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti, Vaishnav, Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya, Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Say Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya. Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha, Shivasati Gaur, Bhakta Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sayam Kun Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai. Maturaram Ki Jai, Jagadapasami Ki Jai, Yamunamari Ki Jai, Shimani Dala Sidevi Ki Jai, Sambhaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bo. All glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees. All glorious to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda. Nama Om Vishnupadaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamani. Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pajarani, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi. Paschatya Deja Tarane, Omagana Timidanda Shah Gananjana, Shalakaya Chakshurum Meditam, Yena Tasmai, Shigurave Namaha. So I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So today we're going to talk about Krishna's appearance in this world. So you all get excited to come on Friday for Janmastami. So first of all, we talk about Krishna appearing in this world. We don't talk about him. Of course, sometimes you say Krishna was born on Janmastami, but Krishna was not born. Even this soul that's us is never born. You know, Ajopi son of Yatma Bhutanam Licharopi son Prakriti Miswamadistaya Sambhavami Apnamaya. So Krishna comes as he is by his internal potency. And so Krishna is there in the spiritual world, the original form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead known as Krishna, Ananda Nandana, Goloka Bihari, and he resides in a place called Goloka Vrindavan. And there you see a picture of Goloka Vrindavan, for those of you who can see. Actually, it's good to close the curtains so that we get less light coming from that direction. And Krishna is there with all of his associates, but he comes down for several different purposes. One purpose, of course, as you all know, is to what Parichanaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Chadushkatam. to annihilate the rascals, the politicians, to save the devotees, and to present and establish religious principles. So Krishna is aware of everything happening in this material world with all the rebellious souls. Now, Krishna is the original supreme personality of Godhead, but Krishna creates this material world through an expansion of himself, known as Mahavishnu, who lies down in the causal ocean. And the reason he creates this material world, there's a reason for it, is to give us a chance, all of us in this material world, to rectify ourselves and ultimately come back to the spiritual world. I'm using the phrase come back right now. As His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada would often say, back to home, back to Godhead. Because originally we were with Krishna. And Krishna Bhadhira Mukha, we turned our face away from Krishna. So we're responsible for being here. So sometimes people say, well, we're not responsible for being here. We were born in the material world. But that's like a prisoner who was in prison saying, I'm not responsible for being here. Actually, it wasn't my fault. I'm not a criminal. So this is like Krishna's jail cell. So Krishna created his jail cell for the rebellious souls so they would have an opportunity to be reformed, not so that they would be punished. Krishna's idea is not to punish us. You may think, oh, God is punishing us. Sometimes parents say that to their children when the children don't listen to them, right? Do any of you have parents who said that to you, that if you didn't listen to them, they would say, God is going to punish you? I see some smiles there. Well, God doesn't punish for punishment's sake. God is rectifying us. It's called restorative justice. That's a technical word. So anyway, so as the Mahavishnu, all the universes come out of his body, and Krishna descends as the avatar. It's called a Purusha avatar, Mahavishnu. And then Krishna enters into each and every universe as what's called another Purusha avatar, the Garbhodakshai Vishnu. Very interesting. And then from that Garbhodakshai Vishnu comes Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is the first living entity in the universe, and he is sort of the boss of the whole universe. Here's a picture of him. And so Lord Brahma creates all the different planets. Now, at the same time, we say Krishna comes down as these Purusha avatars, and also the Kshirodaksha Vishnu, who is the Paramatma in everyone's heart. At the same time, Krishna is still in the spiritual world. Galoka Evinibhashati Akilatma Bhuta. Krishna is in every atom, and he's in everyone's heart. He's outside this universe, creating all the universes. He's within the universe, giving birth to Lord Brahma. And he never leaves Vrindavan. That's amazing. Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. So when we say he descends, it doesn't mean that he leaves someplace. He manifests himself in this world. And when Krishna manifests himself in this world, he brings the spiritual world with him. It's something like an embassy of a particular government. Like if you go to the Swedish embassy in Washington, D.C., then the laws of Sweden apply. So, for example, let's say you do something really bad in the United States. You speed in your car, then run into the Swedish embassy, and the police can't give you a ticket until you get out. Of course, they won't let you stay in the Swedish embassy. So the different laws and rules apply in the different embassies. So Krishna brings down the spiritual world, and he manifests the spiritual world in various locales, not only in Vrindavan, but in Ayodhya. Ayodhya place is the place, of course, of Lord Ram. So Krishna manifests these spiritual realms in these different places in terms of his various incarnations and pastimes that take place there. So, and many of these realms are on this planet. So here's the Earth planet. So once upon a time, as the Bhagavatam mentions, the Earth planet was having trouble. I guess it's still having trouble, right? More trouble. So there's a presiding deity of the Earth. Her name is Bhumi. And when she feels overburdened, not because there's too many people, because if the people are good, she loves to have a lot of people. But when she feels overburdened because the rulers are really bad, or because the people are really bad, then she has to go to someone to complain. Because she's not the ultimate boss. There's a whole hierarchy in the universe. The ultimate boss, of course, is Vishnu, but right below him, the managing boss is Lord Brahma. So basically, over 5,000 years ago, there were too many bad politicians on the earth. Sounds familiar. So, and the reason they were not just bad politicians, they were out and out DEMONS, bad people. And these bad people were there because they were coming from other planets and they took birth in families of rulers. It's interesting, isn't it? And that was a previous yuga. Still happening now. But it's in the previous yuga, they took birth. They were, well, the whole story in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is they were fighting with Lord Vishnu and then they all got killed. And they decided, you know, we can transfer ourselves and take shelter on the Earth planet. It's like a Death Star, for those of you who know Star Wars. So we transfer ourselves to the Earth planet. And so Bhumi had a problem. He was like, what is that? We have a problem, Houston. You know, so they had a problem. Bhumi had a problem. And these are some of the rulers. Look familiar. I think you can identify some of our modern politicians. And there's a. So anyway, so they were creating problems. And so Bhumi was able to change her form and shape. She could appear like a cow. And the earth itself, this is interesting, the earth itself is an entity, and Bhumi is the presiding deity of that entity. I don't know if any of you heard of what's called the Gaia hypothesis. Anyone here heard of that? No, no one's heard about that. Anyway, Gaia hypothesis is that just like we have what? Veins and bones and brain, the earth has all these different systems like rivers and mountains, you know, like bones like that. And so the earth responds in different ways to when she's been treated badly. You know, like global warming, flooding, too many storms, too little water. You know, you see this happening all over the place. I was just reading the other day how they're expecting Los Angeles to go underwater at one particular juncture. So anyway, that's okay with me. So I'm not in Los Angeles. So she took the shape of the cow and she was crying and she went to Lord Brahma. Help me, help me, help me. And Lord Brahma remembered this verse, Yada Yada Dharmasha Glanir Bhavati Bharata Bhutanam Dharmasha Tadatmanam Shijamyaham, which means what I said before, that whenever there is a decline in religion and everything like that, then Krishna comes. He manifests himself. It doesn't say he's born. So Lord Brahma, he goes to the boss. And the boss, of course, is Vishnu in this universe, who's lying on Seshanag. And he goes to the shore, not exactly right up to him. And he offers these prayers. These are standard prayers offered by the demigods called the Purusha Shukta prayers. We're going to go over a few of them right now so you understand. And these prayers are prayers to the Lord when you're trying to get him to give you his mercy and come down into the material world. So here's the first one. Om Sahasra Shirsha Purusha Sahasraksha Sahasra Patsa Bhumim Vishvato Avritagratishto Datashangulim. This means the Supreme Lord in the form of the universe has 1,000 heads, 1,000 eyes, and 1,000 feet, for he contains all the living entities. Having pervaded the universe completely to give it existence, being independent, he extended himself beyond it by 10 fingers, 10 of his fingers, of course. Purusha evadam sarvam yaduktam yatsha bhavyam utam ritadva sheshano yadan inatirohati. The universes, past, present, and future, are all manifestations of the Supreme Lord who expands himself as the Purusha. Purusha means the Supreme Person. He is the Lord of immortality, but has manifested himself as the Purusha in the universe so that the jivas may enjoy material fruits. They enjoy the fruits and then have the bitter taste when you try to enjoy the fruits. That's the problem. Etayavang nasha mohimato janyanyascha purusha padosha vishwabhutani tripadashamritam divi. The past, present, and future universes are all manifestations of the Lord's powers, but the Lord himself is much greater. The material creation is but 1/4 portion, and the eternal nature is the spiritual sky, which exists in 3/4 portion. In other words, 1/4 of the Lord's energies is this material world, the manifestation, and 3/4, which is most of the living entities, we're in the minority, are 3/4 is the spiritual world. Tripadurva udai purushan pado sheha bhavat puna tato vishwang yakramatsa shanga nashane abhi. 3/4 portion of the Lord transcended the material portion. That means spiritual world. The Lord in 1/4 portion manifested the universes again as he'd done previously. The Lord of the 1/4 portion began the work of creation. That's Lord Vishnu in this world, by going all around, taking the form of all animate and inanimate objects. Just about 2 more. Tasman virala jayata virajo adi purusha sajato atyarityata paschad bhumi matopura. From that Lord, the Virat or universe was born, and that Virat Purusha, that means the universal form. Paramatma, the universe, was born, having appeared. The Virat Purusha grew and produced the earth and the bodies of the jivas. And this is actually, we'll skip the rest of them because it's a short class. So the demigods basically heard no reply. But Brahma, he heard a reply from within his heart. And that's mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that the knowledge that the Lord imparted to Lord Brahma, the first person, was given Teni Brahmaya Adi Kavaye, Hridaya Adi Kavaye, from the heart. And he learned that Krishna would soon appear, and Krishna told him that the demigods should go to earth as well to assist and become members of the Yadu dynasty. Yadu dynasty is the dynasty in which Krishna appeared. Now, we find this is very similar whenever Krishna appears, because he never comes alone. He comes with all of his associates, his expansions. Like we have Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared over 500 years ago. He appeared with his associates, Panchatattva, 4 associates in the Panchatattva, plus with thousands of other devotees who are actually incarnations of the residents of Vrindavan. So this is standard. And when Lord Brahma appeared, he asked the demigods to take the form of what? Does anyone know? Monkeys and bears. That's interesting. And so they took the form of monkeys and bears to assist Lord Ram. So this is Krishna's direction through Lord Brahma. And he sent all the elder members into this world, especially Vasudeva and Devaki. So Vasudeva and Devaki were getting ready to be married. And as they were getting ready to be married, what happened is that Devaki's brother, whose name was Kamsa, was driving the chariot. Now that's a standard in marriages. The brother of the girl will drive the chariot or drive the Mercedes or whatever to the new home. In those days, they didn't have Mercedes, so they had horses. So, and Kamsa was a very evil person. He had deposed his father, Ugrasena, and taken over the kingdom. Now, Kamsa was also an incarnation of one of those demons that I mentioned before. His name was Kalanemi in his last life, and he had been killed by Lord Vishnu. So, and he was informed about that later on by Narada Muni. So as he was taking his sister and brother-in-law to their new home, he heard a voice in the sky that said, Kamsa, the eighth son of Vasudeva and Devaki, is going to be the death of you. And so he heard that, and he took it very seriously. In those days, people took omens very seriously. And he thought, I can make sure they don't have any children. What's the best way to make sure someone doesn't have any children? You kill them. So, you see how much love he had for his sister. He's ready to kill her at an instant's notice. So Vasudeva, of course, he tried to stop Kamsa, and he preached some Krishna conscious philosophy to him about how, if you're going to be born, you're going to die anyway, so don't worry about it. And he understood that Kamsa was not going to give up his idea of killing his sister. So at one point he held Kamsa's hand. Of course, Kamsa was very, very, very strong. But then he thought, well, the only way I can stop Kamsa from killing our children or killing my wife at this particular juncture is to promise him that I'm going to give him all my children. And so Kamsa believed him when he said that, because Vasudeva was known as a very truthful person. In those days, truth meant something to people. If they said something, then it was very important that they kept their promises. Nowadays, it's not, because this is Kali Yuga. People don't keep their promises. So anyway, after a while, the first child was born, and Kamsa said, no, you're supposed to be the eighth child. You can keep 7 of them. I just want the 8th one. So, he's being a little compassionate here. He had just an ounce of compassion, an ounce of mercy. But Narada Muni had a different idea, because Narada Muni, he wanted Kamsa to kill the children really quickly so that the 8th child would be born, and he knew the 8th child was going to be Vishnu, and he knew that the 8 children should be killed. Oh my God, should be killed? Let's hear about that. The 6 children should be killed. He knew the 6 children should be killed, not the 8 children. So because, and he was informed by Narada Muni, in your previous life, you were Kalanemi, as we mentioned before. You were killed by Vishnu. So Kamsa then sends Vasudeva and Devaki to jail, or at least house confinement. And they're watched very, very carefully. And so they have 6 sons. And each one of these 6 sons was killed by Kamsa. Now, these 6 sons in their previous life were the sons of Kalanemi too, the sons of Kamsa in his previous life. So Kalanemi had a great father in his previous life. His father's name was Hiranyakashipu. Can't beat him for a father. So Hiranyakashipu was the grandfather. And so these boys, these Shadgarbhas, they're called, 6 children, they went to Lord Brahma, and they were asking Lord Brahma for a benediction, but Hiranyakashipu thought, they're going over my head to Lord Brahma, so I'm cursing them that they will be killed by their own father. So they were supposed to be killed by Kalanemi, and Kalanemi's next life was Kamsa. And so these 6 personalities represent 6 what we call anarthas. Anartha means unwanted things like kama, krodha, mada, matsarya, bhaya, bhaya. And here they're depicted as lust, anger, greed, illusion, envy, and material madness. Not psychological madness, but just being mad to enjoy. Nunam pramata kurute vikarma yadendriya pritita apranoti. Being mad to enjoy this material world. And so it's material association. So Devaki's fear of losing these children, and when she actually lost these children, purified her. This is the statement of the Bhagavatam. And so, in other words, before we can observe or come in contact with Krishna, or before Krishna manifests himself fully to us, we have to deal with these 6 things, these 6 anarthas. And the process of bhakti enables us to do that. That's called sadhana bhakti, where we chant, we follow the 4 regulative principles, we keep good association, we take prasadam, and then we become purified enough so the Supreme Lord will manifest before us. And right after those 6 sons were killed, then guess what? The 7th son, Shesh or Balaram, appeared in her womb. So Balaram is very important. We talked about him last week. Balaram actually prepares the ground for the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Balaram is the first expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is the original guru. So by Balaram's mercy, Nayamatma Bala Inena Labdwa, by Balaram's mercy, one can understand Krishna. Without Balaram's mercy, one cannot get Krishna. So he created a suitable atmosphere for the Supreme Lord to appear in the womb of Devaki. So then Krishna called for Yogamaya. Yogamaya is Krishna's internal potency to transfer Balaram, Shesh, from Devaki's womb to Rohini's womb. Rohini was another wife of Vasudeva, and she had been previously sent after 6 kids were killed to Vrindavan to reside with Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai, because Nanda Maharaj was the half-brother of Vasudeva. Nanda Maharaj was born from a Vaishya lady, Vaishya mother, and Vasudeva was born from a Kshatriya mother. So she transferred Balaram to the womb of Rohini, who was already pregnant. And so Balaram actually appeared in Vrindavan. But Rohini, as I mentioned last week, was actually pregnant for 14 months before she gave birth to Balaram. And Balaram appeared 8 days before Krishna. He appeared from Rohini's womb. And of course, Krishna appeared from Devaki's womb and was later transferred to Vrindavan. So Yogamaya also, at this particular point, when she goes to Vrindavan, she enters the womb of Yashodamai in Gokula. And so Yashodamai is giving birth to a girl. Then Krishna entered Vasudeva's mind. So there was no normal physical or seminal procedure like we usually hear about. He entered Vasudeva's mind, and then from the mind, Vasudeva's pure mind, he entered Devaki's womb, and Devaki looked very, very beautiful. The demigods, they appeared before her, offering different prayers because they knew the Supreme Personality of Godhead was in her womb. Whoops. And so many auspicious things occurred. There were statements in the Bhagavatam how saintly persons cross the ocean in a boat to attain Krishna, but they also leave the boat on our side. It's not that they take the boat across the ocean of material existence and then there's no boat for us. So the boat is always on this side that they leave for us. And of course, that boat is the boat of Radha and Krishna. And the boat is also Krishna's lotus feet. So as when we get in this boat, the whole material ocean happens. It's a miracle. The whole material ocean, and it's very hard to swim across an ocean, becomes shrunk to the size of a puddle. So you can easily cross over the whole material ocean. And then, so anyway, there were many signs of peace and prosperity everywhere when Devaki was pregnant with Krishna. And everybody's minds became purified and signs of good fortune. There were lakes decorated with lotus flowers. The birds began to sing with sweet voices. The wind was carrying the aroma of different flowers and different fragrances. And even the sensation of bodily touch was pleasing. Brahmins who previously had trouble doing their sacrifices because Kamsa was trying to impede their sacrifices became full of joy because they could hear the transcendental vibrations in the sky and they were able to do their sacrifices. Everything became auspicious. Actually, there's a picture I took of Govardhan and Vrindavan, the Madan Mohan temple. So there's pictures of auspicious things. Very, very pleasing for the mind. And then, guess who appeared? But Krishna first appeared with four hands. Why do you appear with four hands? Because they understood, Vasudeva and Devaki, they were devotees, and they understood that's the appearance of God. Lord Vishnu, as Prabhupada once said, is the official God. And God, when he's at home in Vrindavan, manifests two hands and two arms. So this was to show them, don't worry, everything will be all right. So this pacified Devaki and Vasudeva. And Devaki got a chance to hold Krishna and feed Krishna. And she was thinking, after thousands of years of austerities, Krishna is finally my son, but I have to protect him. So Vasudeva and Devaki offered prayers to the Supreme Lord, but they were very, very fearful for the safety of Krishna. And they were thinking, how can we take Krishna out of here? There's guards guarding us 24 hours a day. So all of a sudden, the guards fell asleep. And the doors opened. And Vasudeva was able to take Krishna to Vrindavan. And Devaki was thinking, will I ever see Krishna again? So he had to cross the Yamuna River, which was raging. And there's even one story that he dropped Krishna while he was crossing the Yamuna River because the Yamuna Devi, who is the eternal wife of Krishna, she wanted to hold Krishna and touch Krishna's lotus feet. So eventually he arrives in Vrindavan, crossing the Yamuna River, and he switches the boy for the girl. And Yashodamai is sleeping, nobody notices. And so he comes back into the prison house, the door is closed, the guards come awake again. And then Kamsa is informed about what's happening. He hears the crying of the little girl. And Devaki says, it's a girl. The boy's supposed to kill you. Kamsa didn't want to hear about that. So Devaki begs for the life of her daughter, and Kamsa doesn't hear or take into account what she's saying. And he tries to kill her. He raises her up as to throw her against the wall, and then she flies into the air. And she manifests 8 arms. That's Durga. And she said, you fool. Sorry. The child who will kill you has been born elsewhere. And then she disappears. And Kamsa is really worried at this particular point. That's why he makes plans to kill the residents, many of the residents of Vrindavan, the newly born people in Vrindavan. And so in Vrindavan, everything is going nicely across the Yamuna River in Vrindavan. Krishna is being taken care of by Yashodamai. And then there's the name-giving ceremony that Gargamuni does. And so many gifts are given to Krishna. And Abhishek of Krishna. And he displays various pastimes and ages in Vrindavan. One of the most attractive to me is when he grabs hold of a calf's tail and he's pulled by the calf everywhere. Yeah, and Mother Yashoda is very worried. And of course, he kills many demons. And he exchanges loving exchanges with Yashoda Mai and Nanda Maharaj. We're almost finished with the slideshow. So many beautiful pictures here. And with his friends, the cowherd boys. And of course, with the gopis. And one of the most attractive pastimes for me, perhaps the most attractive pastime, is Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill to save the residents of Vrindavan. And for 7 days, he holds the hill aloft, and the residents are under there enjoying watching Krishna continually for 7 days while Indra is trying to kill the residents of Vrindavan. So in this way, Krishna not only fulfills the purpose of this verse, yada yada hi dharmasya glanar bhavati bharadavita dharmasya chadatma jaman, that he comes to establish religious principles, protect the devotees, and to annihilate the miscreants. But even more important, Krishna comes to display his attractive pastimes so that we will become attracted to them. Because as Prabhupada comments, that if Krishna didn't come, we would have to speculate upon the nature of God. That means we would project our own material conceptions upon the nature of God. For example, because we look a certain way, let's say if you're from India, you would have God look like someone from India. Or if you were from Sweden, you would have God being blonde hair and blue eyes. Or as one famous pre-Socratic philosopher said, if you were a horse, you would have God look like a horse. So people generally project their own conceptions and speculate upon the nature of God. Or you may be a Mayavadi who thinks that everybody is God or nobody is God, a voidist. So therefore, Krishna comes to show us what he's like so we can love him and be attracted to him, what he does, what he's like, what his qualities are, and ultimately what his name is. And within Krishna's name, Namachintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, Purashuddha Nityamo Mukto, Vinatvam Namano, or all these different aspects of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the most important thing for us is to chant his name and to hear about the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then ultimately we can become so attracted to him that Raso Varjam Rasto Pirsa, Param Drishadi Vartate, we lose a taste for things of this world which are temporary. So we want to have something, eternity, bliss, and knowledge, things that are eternal, things that are always pleasurable, and have real knowledge that is not just transitory, real knowledge that is not subjective. We want objective knowledge. And this we can have by taking part in devotional service. So thank you very much. And this is all by the mercy of his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who gave us this Krishna consciousness. And please come on Friday. So anybody have any questions? Saturday. Oh yeah, Saturday for Prabhupada's appearance day. Questions or comments about anything we said? Yes. There's what? Envy, illusion, yeah. The madness is like just becoming so bewildered we forget our real self-interest. Yes, in one sense, it's like you turn up the volume of lust, anger, greed, and illusion. So you forget who you actually are. You forget Natevidhu, Swarta Gatami Vishnu, Durashaya Ebahir Artha Marina, Andarya Tanda Rupaniyana Manas, Tepi Shatantram Urdamni Bada. And I'll translate that for you. Because people don't know that their real self-interest is Krishna consciousness. Natevatu Swartagatim Hi Vishnu. Then their mind is concentrated on this external material world, and they accept as leaders people who are blind. And when you have a blind person leading you, andar yatanda rupaniyamanas, then you both fall into a ditch. The blind leading the blind. So that's the madness. Yeah. And that's also described by this one verse, which I quoted, Nunam pramata kurute vikarma. Yarindriya pritiya apranoti. There's a verse given by Lord Rishabhadeva, the one who actually takes the satisfaction of the gross and material senses in this world as one's goal, one actually becomes pramada. Actually, pramada means still more mad. It actually emphasizes mada. It's like mad, not in the sense that, you're just like psychotic. That's really not the point. But mad in the sense that you act completely against your self-interest. It's like, okay, let's take an example. Yudhisthira Maharaj gambling. Okay? He was wanting to win. He became mad. So he did something that was so much against his material or spiritual self-interest, right? He gambled his whole kingdom. He gambled his brothers. And ultimately, he gambled his wife. And you may think that this is, it's just a story. Well, you go to Las Vegas sometimes. No, you shouldn't go to Las Vegas. They don't allow you to gamble your wife there, don't worry. Or your parents. Here, take my parents. So you go to Las Vegas and people actually lose literally their shirts. And outside of every casino, they have what's called a notary public, so you can sign your car over. In other words, they go there with some money and they leave without anything. Because that's mad. That's mad. So the intense desire, it's connected to the other anarthas, lust, anger, greed. You become mad in the sense that you act against your own self-interest. And that's the problem. It's one of the anarthas, kama, krodha, matsarya. And matsarya is an interesting one too. Envy. You want what someone has. It doesn't only mean you want some material possession that someone has. You want to possess them. That's also connected with lust. These 6 anarthas are not mutually exclusive. Like if you're lusty to enjoy someone else, then you also want to possess them. You're envious of them simultaneously. And you're also mada or mad. And you're also greedy. So I guess when you want to enjoy someone else, you can roll all 6 of the anarthas together. 6 for the price of 1. That's the problem. Kama esha, krodha esha, rajaguna samudbha. Krishna's asked, this is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. Kama. Lust. I mean, let's give the example of the demons when they had actually gotten the nectar of immortality, right? You know the story of churning the milk ocean? They got the nectar of immortality. So what does Krishna do to take the nectar of immortality away from them? He appears as a beautiful girl. He doesn't just go up to them and say, give me back the nectar. He thinks this is an easy way to get the nectar from them. Easy peasy. He comes as Mohini Murti and says, hi, boys. And they just voluntarily say, you decide how to divide it. And he even says, you can't trust me. And they say, oh, isn't that cute? Isn't it? Isn't that cute? I mean, isn't that an example how lust makes you really angry, really crazy? Isn't that cute? And then it takes away the nectar, gives it to the demigods. And of course, Rahu sees what's happening. But anyway, he loses his head. It's another story. So yeah, Nunam Pramata Devi Karma Yadindriya Pri. And that's lust is making everybody crazy in this world. So anyway, so on that happy note, now that we're trying to dissuade people from this world, or maybe we are. Okay, so thank you very much. All glories to His divine grace. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, be glad.